All right, guys, we're live. We've got a kind of special show for you today. I got a new subscriber, bam, right away. Nate Stutter, thank you for subscribing. I've got my friend Cory Johnson with me today. Cory is an avid Vikings fan and also a member of our fantasy football league where I just got absolutely annihilated. And so I wanted to bring on Cory just to talk to us a little bit about Kevin Stefanski, what we should expect from him, what he knows about having watched the Vikings over the past, I don't know, forever. Sort of like we are Browns fans, he is a Vikings fan. Cory, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on this. I've been waiting to do this with you.
Very welcome, dude. Very welcome. Also, before we get started, a couple things. The Patreon is active, so right below me there, patreon.com/browniepostgame. If you want to have your name listed on that ticker on scrolling across the bottom, all it takes is $1. You can help us out. We can give away some cool stuff. Also, if you happen to have any painting needs and you're in the greater Cleveland area, give Greg Tracy a call. Phone number's listed right there underneath Cory to my right. All residential, commercial, any painting needs, interior, exterior, give them a call. They're proud supporters and the first business tier supporter in Patreon of the Brownie Postgame YouTube channel. So we should probably get one other thing right out of the way. My dad and I did a survey a couple days ago before the Vikings 49ers game.
Ugh.
And it was to say, like, who did you think was going to win? For a chance to win a OBJ bobblehead. And the winner was, out of all the people listed, Jason Stopar. Jason is a number one, he's a active guy in the chat. And number two, he's a patron. And because he had 3 chances, one of those chances he got it all right. So, Jason, you get the OBJ Funko Pop. I'm going to hit you up on email and get all your contact information. So you're good there. Yes.
Just a picture of it, and I'll take it.
Show us your little Funko Pop there, Cory.
Everyone knows this guy.
Yeah, you literally rode that guy to a fantasy football championship.
The things we've been through.
Max Nikolenko, Garrett Hess, Greg Tracy, what's going on? Dave Crow's there. Beautiful Crow, what's going on? Mr. Hall, Jason Stopar, everybody in chat, welcome. All right, Cory, so
live.
First question that I have, give us your thoughts as a Vikings fan on the last 2.5 years with Kevin Stefanski calling the plays as offensive coordinator for the Vikings.
First off, I'm a Titans fan now, just for the record. What's the question? What to expect?
No, like what was he? I mean, taking over.
He's a great play caller. I mean, he's the kind of guy that on a third down with 3, instead of going for the 3 when Dalvin Cook's pushing for 6.6 yards a carry, he goes for that 66-yard play. Anyone remember that earlier in the season? He goes for it all instead. Like, he's that guy. He knows where the weak spots are. He points them out. He just doesn't have a quarterback on the Vikings. That's my biggest beef with these guys. I cry over Kirk Cousins all the time. I can't. You can't play in this league without mobility, I think, and he's a mobility quarterback play caller. Mm-hmm. He's gonna love Baker. I think he's gonna thrive with that guy. He's gonna take a lot of risks, and he's gonna find some weaknesses, and I think he's gonna exploit them. And they've got the tools, so nothing's changed from last year, right? They're not losing anybody. I don't
from the offense, the only thing they're gonna lose on offense, they might lose some role players on there, but the core is still gonna be there. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, OBJ, Jarvis, and Njoku. They're all still under contract, so they're not going anywhere unless they decide to move any of those guys. I don't anticipate they're going to do that. I think they like the talent on the Browns roster. It's just now about how do you maximize that talent. And what I like about Stefanski is what he was able to do with Diggs and Thielen, first and foremost, and then Cooks running the ball as well. Is Stefanski a guy who prefers, because a lot of the people are saying that he prefers the run, he will run the ball quite a bit versus driving towards the pass, which Freddie Kitchens was more into. Is Stefanski more of is he a run-first offensive coordinator, or is he balanced?
I think he'll use what he's got. I think the Browns have a very similar skill set to the Vikings offense, don't they? They've got a power runner. I mean, they've even got 2 power runners. They've got Jarvis, who had a better year than OBJ, believe it or not. Like, what happened there? And they got Baker. So they've got the Thielen, they've got the Diggs, they've got the big tight end. he's got what he needs, but he's got way more mobility with Baker. So those running plays are going to turn into bootlegs. They're going to turn into a lot more play action. And you have two completely elite running backs on your lineup that can just beat the shit out of teams the same way Derrick Henry does by himself.
Now, in terms of one of the things I noticed, and I haven't watched a lot of Vikings. I watched the playoffs, obviously, but I haven't watched a lot of the regular season stuff. One of the things I really liked about Stefanski was it seemed like he knew what plays to call to get the yards that they needed. It didn't seem like he was pushing too hard. It was like, look, if it's 3rd and 6, we're going to call the play that's going to get us 6 yards, and he'll be able to dump it over and a lot of dump off type passes versus the Todd Monken offense that we saw in the Browns, which was do 7-step drops, read, and throw the ball 15 yards down the field when you only need 6. Is that something that he did all year by being able to throw those the little dump off West Coast offense style stuff, or is that just something that he did really well, at least in the first game of the playoffs?
Who's Stefanski?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he did a fantastic job in the first game of the playoffs, but it wasn't even a play calling that was their downfall. I mean, they played strong in the first half, which is unlike them. The Kirk Cousins. I mean, it's that simple. They were able to just ignore him, lock down Dalvin Cook, and he couldn't really maneuver in that because they wanted him to call plays. They wanted him to call passing plays. They wanted him to have anything that brings Cousins back in the pocket for even a second, because that's how they won. That's all they have to do is get him rattled just a little bit, and he just – you watched the playoff game, didn't you? Yeah. How many plays did you see him cringe up when there was a guy 2 feet away? Like, he wasn't even getting contact yet, and he just gives up, turtles up, and quits. And then you got a guy like Deshaun Watson who gets hit from both ends like a fucking train wreck, and he just scurries out. Like, give me 5% of that. Give Kevin Stefanski 5% of that mobility with the quarterback, and he's going to do extremely well.
Now, Kevin, one of the things that a lot of the Browns fans are talking about, they're saying that, well, Kevin Stefanski was successful with Case Keenum and with Kirk Cousins. Imagine what you could do with the arm talent of Baker Mayfield. Knowing what you know about both Baker and Kirk Cousins, what would you expect out of Baker next year in terms of statistics or in terms of just quality of play? How much better can he get under a guy like Stefanski?
I think he's going to get a lot better, but I don't think it's anything statistical besides a simple one, time of possession. I think they're going to have the ball way more than they did this year with Stefanski. I think he's going to be able to get those first downs. I think he's going to provide a momentum for these guys. The same way that the Vikings fail on 3rd down, but if they didn't, they would have a much higher time of possession margin than they do. And I think that's how you get better, right? Being in the game more, playing more, having more reps, having more real-time reps, having success on the field. Like, that's time of possession. I think you're going to get a lot more of that. A lot more.
I want to look at the Vikings depth chart because I really want to compare it a little bit versus what the Browns have right now. Is there anything from what the Vikings showed you or the last couple of years with the Vikings? Is it a talent thing? Was it literally just Kirk Cousins, or was it Dalvin Cook? What were the things that worked for the Vikings? What were the things that Stefanski did well with the players that he had?
He kept our heads above water. That's what he did. He didn't have feeling for most of the year. You know what I mean? And he had Diggs throwing a tantrum. I mean, how do you work with that? It's tough. Like, he didn't have all the parts working, and unfortunately, with a guy like Kirk Cousins who needs every single working part fully oiled, and he doesn't have that. Like I said, he kept their head afloat. Like, he had the ball a lot more too. The defense came through. The Vikings defense wasn't a joke. So,
do you think the Vikings are going to take a step backwards without him, or is a guy like Kubiak going to come in and just take over and just be the man there and pick up right where they left off?
Is it Kubiak?
I don't know if it was officially announced. I think a lot of the rumors of the Browns are trying to get him as well. They'd like to bring him along with them just to mentor Kevin Stefanski.
I have no idea. I don't know. I think we need offensive line help. We have good run blockers, but we don't have good pass blockers. It seems like. I know on paper it might be the opposite, but look at the stats. I mean, Dalvin Cook was able to run on teams most of the time, but then those games that Kirk Cousins wasn't was obviously rattled by the second quarter. Teams just focused in on the run, and guess what? Dalvin Cook ends up taking shot after shot after shot, and that guy's prone to injury. You know, Vikings running backs have all been prone to injury for the past couple of years. Madison would have been the last 2 games of the season, great to have him, but he wasn't available. So we bombed those 2 important games. That could have messed with our entire seeding, but everyone's seeding, Jesus, with the NFC. But
yeah, looking at this season, just looking at what Kirk Cousins did from a yards passing perspective. First game, he threw for 98 yards with a win over Atlanta. Second game, a loss against Green Bay at Green Bay, threw for 230. Dalvin Cook also rushed for 154. Third game of the season, Oakland, he threw for 174, and they got the win. Fourth game, 233 loss. Fifth, 306. Then he got 303, 338. So he really turned it on mid-season and was putting up decent numbers. And all through the mid-season, he was okay. And the last 2 games, the last game, 122 yards, and then the Chicago game, the last game, Mannion threw for 126. They didn't bench Cousins. Did he get hurt?
Which game?
The Chicago game. Wait, no.
I don't even remember. I probably didn't watch the last half of that game.
Okay.
It didn't matter. There was no implications behind
Sean Mannion actually was I don't know if he started or if they benched Cousins or whatnot, but he actually, I didn't even know he played that game. That's surprising.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, what do you know about Stefan? What are the things? Is there anything, or was he just like, hey, it was just the offense coordinator? That's all we got. I mean, is there any insight that you can give us as an avid Vikings fan who watched him call plays for the last 2.5 years?
He's gonna have fun with Nick Chubb. I don't really know much about. I'm not like a coaches deep into coach kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I can tell you a movie title, but not the director kind of deal.
Sure.
He's a power runner. I mean, he knows that opens up all the doors in this current league. Like that opens up the play action and opens up the bootleg for all these quarterbacks who are mobile. But that's always going to be the key word, and I feel like, and that's where this league's going, is mobility. Like, and he needs it. And if they don't bring someone in who can really baby Kirk Cousins the way that like Peyton Manning was babied, the way that, you know, even back then with Elway and Marino, the protection those guys had.
Yeah.
Those were the guys that would check down 4 times. You look at a guy like Mahomes or Watson or even Baker, they don't necessarily check down 4 times, even with time. They check down twice and then they take off. That's their third check, is to run.
Right.
Because they can. And they're durable as hell too. I mean, they're gonna pay for it. Everyone pays for it. Look at Cam. But that's where the money's at, and that's where the high scoring games are at. That's where the points are. I mean, that's where the wins are in this league. Is you need to be able to get out of that fucking pocket and throw it. Like, you're not an Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like that guy, but he's still a good quarterback, you know what I mean? He's the guy that can check it down 4 times and then also scramble and run and make the first down. He's kind of able to do it all, but we don't have that. We had Favre at one time, but
Max Nikolenko, one of the guys in chat, asked, why do Minnesota fans hate Stefanski? Do you feel like I never felt like Minnesota fans hated the guy? Like,
I don't know any Minnesota fans.
But you certainly didn't, did you?
And if they asked no, I didn't. I like their playbook. I play Madden. I like the Vikings playbook.
Gary Washington is asking, Corey, how would you compare OBJ and Landry to Thielen and Diggs?
In what way? Just who would be the who of the thing? OBJ would be Diggs and Thielen would be Landry, probably.
Yeah. In terms of the talent, though, in terms of is the talent very similar between the two guys, would you say? Would it tip one way with Thielen and Diggs maybe being a tad bit younger?
On a consistency level, I think that Landry and OBJ have the edge as far as their every game, they're 100%. Diggs is one of those weird time bombs where he'll work at 95% and otherwise he'll be at 150 if he's happy, 80 if he's not. You know what I mean? There's no real place in the NFL for that. But he is talented. He's a fantastic receiver. Right. I think Thielen's just a workhorse. He's pretty consistent through and through. He can peak pretty high, but he also can drop the ball when it's important.
Well, he had a big catch against the Saints.
Yeah, he
I
also had
mean,
he also had 1,200-yard receiving games in a row last year or something like that. 13. Yeah, and then I think 0 this year.
Well,
So.
I mean, Kirk Cousins literally had to make a public apology to say, I'm sorry for not throwing the ball and not targeting my wide receivers. And I will tell you,
You don't have to do that.
I agree. I think that's one of the issues that the Browns had, and that was a little bit of the anxiety that caused Baker to be a little bit off his game. The fact that I think he felt like he had to feed OBJ and Jarvis and keep them happy, right? Is that something that Stefanski's gonna have learned from? You think from the time in Minnesota, like, hey, look, we got to keep these wide receivers happy. We got to feed them the ball. We can't. If OBJ gets targeted 3 times in a game, it literally makes headline news in ESPN. So is he going to be able to keep them happy along with the Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and be able to handle all these personalities and all this talent?
He's going to have to. I mean, I feel like that problem is the same no matter where you go. It's not one of those things that I've got real good at dealing with it. Now I'm a pro at dealing with it. I think it's just one of those thorns in your asses that's always going to be in your ass. If he can handle the stuff, Thielen and Diggs. I don't think Thielen was a drama queen, though. I think it was just Diggs and him probably starting it with in the locker room and stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't think he's going to have anywhere near as big a deal over there. OBJ's. I don't think he's as bad.
No, yeah,
he's more flashy, I think, but
yeah, I think the thing that Browns fans out there are most concerned with, from what I can tell, and what at least the way I feel too, is the lack of experience that Kevin Stefanski has. He's gotten consistently better over the last 2.5 years. 2 years, 3 years ago they were bad. The Vikings were bad. Last year or 2 years ago got better, and then this last year they had one of the best offenses arguably in the league. And I think that's one of the reasons why he got hired. He's a very smart guy, University of Pennsylvania, potentially analytics driven, which happens to be the big buzzword in Cleveland right now. But how do you, and this isn't necessarily a direct question about Kevin Stefanski, but how are these guys going to be able to come into the Cleveland Browns? Really not any head coaching experience in the past. Like, do you expect him to perform well coming from just an offensive coordinator for 2.5 years?
I expect him to perform like a rookie. I mean, I don't know about a winning season, but I don't think it's too far-fetched to have a 10-win season.
If we had a 10-win season, everybody in this chat would be happy. I think we would all be we'd be happy. I don't think we'd be thrilled.
I'm just saying it's not far-fetched. It doesn't sound ridiculous.
I think it also comes down to what he's going to be able to do with the defense as well. I think the defense this year was it was given to Steve Wilkes here in the Browns, which was in my estimation, a very poor move. But if he can take his offense and then also have a defensive coordinator that can do something, it's going to be improvement over Freddie Kitchens, because Freddie Kitchens was an absolute disaster. I am worried about the inexperience. I am a little bit worried about a little bit about the youth. I really would have preferred somebody to come into the Browns and be that CEO that would scare the piss out of these guys, these young players, and get them in line. Was there anything were there any controversy other than the Kirk Cousins having to apologize to his wide receivers midseason? Were there any controversies? Was there anything that happened over the last, I don't know, he's been there for like 14 years. Anything in Minnesota that you could point and be like, this is a point of concern about this guy?
I've got absolutely nothing. Like, I don't dig super deep into the small pettiness, like the politic parts of the league. I'll watch the after shows and all that stuff, and I'll get the news. But I mean, as far as specific details on little things to point fingers at, I can't think of a single thing like that his name came up. I have heard that Vikings fans don't like him. I don't know. I don't have anything to base it on. So I've always liked him. So
yeah, I mean, I was digging. I'm digging for everything, because I did a big presentation, PowerPoint presentation with another guy here on my on my YouTube channel a couple days ago before they announced the head coach, and I there's nothing I could find on the guy. Just that he went to University of Pennsylvania. He's been with the Vikings for over a decade, almost a decade and a half. Worked his way up. Smart guy.
I feel like it's the classic story. I mean, it's a coach. He's now. Isn't that what you are? Aren't you a coordinator before you're a coach normally? Defensive,
typically.
Offensive? Like, is there people that have jumped? I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't follow coaches, but I feel like this is the normal story. So he's either going to be a successful coach, or how do you feel about him? Well, here's the comparison.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about him now going into the season compared to how you felt last year going in with Freddie Kitchens? Because you were, ooh, baby, we're gonna get it,
yeah.
Freddie.
I felt like Freddie last year was, I mean, he might not have been the sexiest pick last year, but the Browns were pretty confident. I believed in John Dorsey. I believed he was going to make the right call there. He had been around Kitchens all year, saw what he did with Baker in the offense, and didn't want to miss out on the mojo that they had created on the second half after they fired Hugh Jackson. So I was excited about that because it's almost like, hey, we've seen this. You'd think that in your second year you're going to make a step forward and be better, but I think the cardinal sin, the error that we had in the Browns is elevating Freddie Kitchens to head coach and letting him run the show. If he would have stayed as offensive coordinator, I think we would have been in better shape. Even if we didn't give the job to Greg Williams, he gave it to somebody else. Leaving Freddie Kitchens there as offensive coordinator would have made sense. Now, the thing that I'm afraid of with Stefanski is it's very similar to the Freddie Kitchens situation. He didn't have any head coaching experience at any level, and now he's being handed the keys to the franchise, and they're like you said, 5-year contract.
Yeah, I said that earlier. I didn't know it was 5. It's all big contract for a coach. Did you find out what Freddie was signed to? I remember.
No, anybody in chat, can you help us out? Let us know
how. Just a 1 year as we go deal? Or?
I don't think it could have been 1 year. I think it was probably a minimum of 3 with Freddie. But if anybody in chat knows what the contract length with Freddie was, we're just curious about that. I think that I'm curiously optimistic about Stefanski. I am interested to see if this whole analytics push, the Moneyball way of playing football is going to be the solution. I will tell you one thing. I talked to my dad this morning, and we were talking about the Chiefs' big comeback. And, he and I were both laughing about it. We're like, do you think when the Chiefs were down 24 points, they just started crunching numbers into a computer and telling them what plays to call and what was going to work and what wasn't? Or
do you think the guy on the sideline playing Madden?
Or do you think it was like, literally Pat Mahomes?
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid dialing up plays and everything freaking worked, and then also the Texans just decided to collapse.
I don't know what that was. After the first quarter, I was like, I placed a nice juicy bet on the underdogs, the Texans. It was like a 3.5 to 1 odd on that. I was counting it already. I was like 24-0. They scored 7, and I was like, oh, no big deal. And I went to like poop or something and came back, and it was 21.
I haven't seen a comeback like that,
was unbelievable.
Since the Houston Oilers blew it to the Bills back in like 90 or 91 when they were up by like 1 billion points, and then the Bills with Frank Reich came back and ended up going to the Super Bowl, and then Jim Kelly started that Super Bowl again. Obviously the Bills lost 3 years in a row, but that was it was reminiscent of that epic collapse that the Oilers had at home. The Oilers were
they were down by more than 20 and they lost by 20. That's ridiculous.
That is
40-point swing.
That's
almost 7 touchdowns. That's what that is.
It's like unanswered as well. And then they went and they putting up. How do you put up 50 points in a playoff? How do you give up? Not put up. How do you give up?
Yeah, it was given up.
51 points. 40 points is almost like, oh my God, I can't believe we got 40 points. But when you hit like the half-century mark in terms of points, that is an epic failure. It just like we're.
It happened a few times this season. We've got some big points, but this was a playoff game. Yeah, it's very shocking. And they had J.J. Watt, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I think
no idea.
Well,
it was a huge shocker. The shocker losing the not the game. I didn't. They were the underdogs, but shocker losing that massive lead.
Yeah. to give up. If I was a Texans fan, I would be heartbroken today. Like when you get up that high, you start, like you said, you start counting the checks, and I just feel like that is. I don't know what's worse, to get up like that and then lose, or to just lose in the final seconds. I don't know. Either way, I guess is heartbreaking, but I think that's more disappointing. Is like you had it in your hand. All you had to do was continue playing, foot on the gas, not fake punts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know
the ball. He's okay. You know how many times he tried to throw the ball that game after they were winning?
That was Bill O'Brien going, we're playing with the house's money. We're up so much. We can get super aggressive and do it. But instead of that, he should have been looking at what's the win condition. At this point, when you're up 24 points, the win condition is the clock. Run it.
Do you remember I think it was the last 16 or 17, 16-17, the Chiefs game. I can't remember who they played against, but Andy Reid milked the shit out of that clock. Every single, and not even the fourth quarter, the entire game, the first quarter, Mahomes, 3-yard run. He waited the entire 38 seconds of the play clock. 5-yard run. 48 or 40 seconds of the play clock. And then, you know what I mean? They get the first down and he'd do it again. And Mahomes is out there. He was out there a bunch of times just waiting. 10 seconds left. Just waiting. Looking at his guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he just milked the clock. And I realize that's probably hard for, like, especially a young guy like Mahomes who's trying to get out there and he's thirsty. Mm-hmm. But that showed massive discipline to me. Like, the fact that he was willing to go out there and play ball with Reed because they just wanted to win. Let's just win this fucking game. We've already got the seed. We've already got the bye.
Yep.
Let's just get the fuck out of here. We'll get the first downs and let's just milk this clock. Like, we're not going to call fake punts. Like
100%. It also it reminds me of the I think it was like the 20. What year was it? 2016 Super Bowl, 2017 Super Bowl with the Falcon. No, it couldn't have been. It was. I recently.
Really forget every Super Bowl 2 years prior.
Yeah,
it's such a weird.
I feel like it was recently, but not so recently. The Falcons Patriots, where the Falcons were up so big, and again the win condition.
Is
the clock.
Ago, I think.
And Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, let me. Now I'm gonna Patriots.
You should Google it.
Falcons.
I'm pretty sure it was last year actually, because I think it was a comeback or 2 years ago.
It was the 2016 season. It was February 5th, 2017. So it was the 2016 season. But dude, I sat there and I'm like, just run the ball.
Way off.
They were one field goal away from winning the game, and Kyle Shanahan calls a freaking pass.
Oh yeah.
With the owner on the sidelines coming down to shake everyone's hand, and he calls a pass, and it was like an 18-yard sack, knocks him out of field goal range in a dome.
The owner was carrying one of those mob envelopes of cash. He was going to go hand them out.
And then Kyle Shanahan calls a pass. Now, I sat there and I go, now Kyle Shanahan's doing some good stuff in San Francisco. I actually picked the 49ers to make the playoffs this year, and middle of the season, after they destroyed the Browns on Monday Night Football, I was like, that's a Super Bowl team right there. And I thought it was going to be Ravens against 49ers, and now it looks like it's going to be Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl. That's the two hottest teams right now, 49ers and Chiefs. And that would be a hell of a Super Bowl. That would be a fun Super Bowl to watch.
Packers Titans.
You think it's going to be Packers Titans?
I don't want to I hope Jeremy never sees this. Packers scare the shit out of me right now. I think they're gonna crack down hard on the Niners early, and they're just gonna BF them the rest of the game.
It could.
I don't think the Niners can stop Aaron Jones the same way I don't think the Packers can stop George Kittle, but I think it's Rodgers versus Garoppolo. There's no way. I don't think Garoppolo's making it to the Super Bowl this year. He might, but I just.
Well, look at the quarterback. Look at the quarterbacks who've lost so far. Quarterbacks a lot. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. These are the quarterbacks who lost.
The fat dicks. That's the ones that when they were showing like the graphics on TV, they'd be like, here are the big dicks over here, and then over here are the little boys, the Tannehill, struggling for the nipple. Like, and now look at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, guys like that. I think it's a big success story. And
win.
We had a chance to get Ryan Tannehill too back when he was of draftable. I feel like that was like 2000. If I had to guess, like 2011 draft was Tannehill.
I think it's one of those cases where it doesn't matter. Like he's one of those guys that he wouldn't come out of the gate being good. He needed to learn from bouncing to go into fucking Miami. If you go to Miami, what are you scared of now? Like, when you're getting sacked 7 times a game, what are you scared of? Look at Fitzpatrick. Like, what's that guy scared of?
Right. And Tannehill, she shows up to a team that went 9-7 3 years in a row, and he's like, all right, well, I have a winning team here. No matter what, we got a winning team. Then you got freaking Henry, who just looks Derrick Henry right now looks like the reincarnation of Jim Brown. Like, that's how scary that dude looks running the ball.
I called him Eddie George, but I like that one better.
Eddie George, yeah, it's very similar to Eddie George. I just think he's thicker than Eddie. Eddie was taller and
faster.
Taller. You think he's faster than Eddie George?
Yeah, I can't believe how fast Derrick Henry is for how big he is.
Yeah, he is. He's a beast.
He's a big black refrigerator.
He is a monster, dude.
He reminds me of Trent Richardson. Remember that guy who panned out to nothing?
Yeah, but like good. He's like a good version.
He would be, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a little taller than Trent Richardson was, but yeah, it's a good analogy there. I don't think the Titans. I don't believe. I see it every day, but I still don't believe that they've done what they've done.
Yeah, I get.
But I will tell you that they definitely took the playbook on how to beat the Ravens and just did it. Get up early and make Lamar Jackson become a quarterback and not just run, and then dump those little passes off when he put 9 in the box.
See, I think they noticed that. I think they noticed that he checks down once before he goes to run, and I think that was a good lockdown because I noticed a little bit that the DBs were playing a little more shallow. Mm-hmm. That way they could disconnect after the first or second check because they're reading the quarterback. You know what I mean? And they were able to stop those 3-4 yard catches that turn into 6 or 7, or Lamar Jackson running for 6 or 7 or 11. They were able to hit that at the 4 yard mark because they were disengaging after a couple checks, knowing damn well he's not going to fucking check. He already looked over here. He ain't looking over here again. Yeah. I mean, that's easy to predict. And I think if Lamar Jackson works on that, he's going to be disgusting. But
Lamar Jackson,
they found it.
What I know about quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, it's the same sort of thing like Tim Tebow. You can't, and I know they're wildly different and they're different talents, and Lamar Jackson is somehow able to be a lot more accurate than Tim Tebow was. But in a lot of ways, it's the same similar analogy. You've got a guy with awful mechanics that you're now going to train to be an NFL quarterback when he's doing the same thing that Michael Vick did. He's relying early on in his career, RG3, Randall Cunningham, same sort of thing. He's relying on his legs early. And he's the most athletic quarterback to ever play the position. I think he's more athletic than Michael Vick was. And he's the modern day version of it, at least in parity, if not better. Where you got a guy like Russell Wilson who could run, but he also has got pinpoint accuracy throwing the ball. I don't think you can correct that at this stage in Lamar Jackson's career. It's just not something. He's not going to show up next year with a different delivery. He's still going to do that quarter throw, throwing from his shoulder position, and he's going to rely on run. And eventually, as we all know, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The dude's going to get hurt.
A guy like Josh Allen is the running tough quarterback that evolves. I don't think Lamar Jackson is.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen is the evolution of Ben Roethlisberger.
Give him 5 years. He's going to be nasty.
Josh Allen is – when I saw him last year, I was like, all right, I see the potential. Then I saw him this year and the steps that he made going forward. I rewatched a lot of the Browns-Bills game because I just made a new hype video highlights, the final highlight video of 2009. And there was quite a bit of the Bills game in there. And looking back at some of the passes he had, he's a giant man. He's very thick. And he doesn't go down easily. He's not afraid to run. He's faster than Roethlisberger. Not as elusive, though, surprisingly, but faster when he actually gets moving forward. And he's got just as, if not bigger, an arm. Accuracy, maybe not quite yet, but you can train accuracy. You can't train delivery and necessarily arm strength, and that's where Lamar Jackson is suffering. So this is the year that Lamar Jackson went off, probably MVP of the league.
Oh, you think at the peak?
I think this is the year. I don't know if it's necessarily. I think statistically, yes, this will be Lamar Jackson's best year. I think, yeah.
What about Mahomes? Was that last year or that fourth?
No, I think Mahomes has got a much bigger upside. Mahomes, I think Mahomes is the next Tom Brady. I think,
Really?
but better. I think he's better. If you look at Tom Brady's first like 6 or 7 years in the league, nobody even wanted to touch him on a fantasy team because he wasn't throwing. He was just relying on defense, and they were just had a very balanced attack. It wasn't until he got Randy Moss throwing 50 touchdowns that everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's statistically amazing too, and he wins Super Bowls."
Yeah.
Whereas Pat Mahomes is statistically amazing out of the gate, and there's a very good chance he's going to win a Super Bowl this year. And if not, man, AFC Championship last year, AFC Championship this year.
He didn't have AFC last year, did he?
Yeah, they lost to.
They lost. Yeah, they made it. Yeah.
Yeah, they made it to. They made it to the against the Patriots.
Oh, old daddy clapped, little boy.
I got to tell you, and they could have won that game too.
They could have.
They could have won that game. I think Pat Mahomes is what the NFL. I think he's a once in a generation talent, being able to run and throw with the way he can do it. Lamar Jackson, I don't see doing that. I think this was his big season, and every season he's going to slow down just a little tiny bit, and it's just going to take one knee injury, something like that, and we'll see if we can come back from it. Vic got injured, also spent a couple years rotting in a prison cell.
At that rate of decay, though, I mean, you see, I mean, he could still get a Super Bowl. I mean, even if in 3 years, if he loses just a little bit, if the Ravens lose just a tiny bit each year, in 3 years, they're still going to be powerful. So I'm saying in that span, is he going to be able to pull a Super Bowl out?
How many run first quarterbacks have in the past 20 years have won the Super Bowl? Run first quarterbacks. I can answer it. 0.
Cam didn't win.
Because like 6 of them went to Brady, so you got to take them out, right?
We look on a list. You probably have like one of those things on your wall that you have like framed that has all the Super Bowl patches or something.
I can only say the only quarterback probably in the last 20 years who's won a Super Bowl that has been even close to 50-50 would be Russell Wilson.
I don't even remember.
And even then, he was throwing a lot. He was just happened to be athletic. So I think that's the thing. Yes, could the Ravens put it together? Yeah, technically they could, but I think this was the year, and I think as teams like the Titans get the book on them, and see where they can beat them. The Browns, the fourth game of the season. I mean, they had the same roadmap to how to do it. Here you go. Here's the plan. Just get up early and keep running the ball and make Lamar Jackson have to throw. So I'm not necessarily a believer in Lamar long term. I think but statistically, I will tell you, this year may have actually been the best statistical year for any quarterback ever. And the reason I say that is if you go to Pro Football Focus and you look at ESPN's QBR. ESPN's QBR, they've been doing it for 15 years now. Out of the top 10 best games since they've been doing the QBR, Lamar Jackson has 3 this year in the top 10 ever. Football games that have been played. 3 of the top
quarterback rating, you said.
Yes, top QBR games in the history since they've been tracking it. 3 of them in one season. Then he had another one that was 12. Another one was 16. I mean, this year, 2019 with Lamar Jackson, this was the year of Lamar Jackson, right? So I think I don't know how you can top that. And since I'm not a believer in the guy, I don't think he will. I really wish all those top QBR games would have been Baker Mayfield, though. Because, God, it was like... And for any of the Browns fans who are out there, I don't think there's... And most of the people, if not all of the people in the chat are very firm Baker Mayfield believers. If you're in chat right now and you're a Baker Mayfield believer and you will ride the Baker Mayfield train forever, type 1, the number 1 in chat, and hit enter. So I want to see. And if you don't believe in Baker Mayfield, you think he's not our guy, put the number 2. I just want to see how this goes. I'm gonna do a quick poll.
Let me put 1. I love him in those commercials when he's talking about the toilets.
Hey, a lot of people aren't happy about the commercials. He gets a lot of crap about that, but I will tell you, I'm riding with 6 till I die. Period. And I think he's that good. And I think that is the one thing I'm looking for with Stefanski. If he can turn him back around, bring him back there, I think that this could be the start of a very, very good thing. It also comes down to the pass protection and what we do, because the pass protection, the last game of the season against the Cincinnati Bengals, who were 1-14 Cincinnati Bengals,
I caught this game.
they got to Baker Mayfield almost every play. And it made it seem like he was playing against the 85 Bears. Just every play in his face, knocking him around. It was the steel curtain, 1-14 Cincinnati Bengals. That just, they kept getting to him. So, and I don't know if the Browns offensive line had given up at that point, but it was embarrassing to watch, and they nearly got him killed. And even then, he didn't give up. So, if we can protect him, I think we're going to be in much better shape. We don't force him to throw 30-plus times a game. The statistics don't lie there. That's an analytic I can get behind. He throws more than 30 times a game. Statistically, they are very bad. Under 30 times, very good. That's it. There's your recipe right there. Run the ball. Can you imagine, Corey?
Keep him converting third downs and make that be his job. You know what I mean? Make Nick and Kareem get those 8 yards. You know what I mean? Get those 11 yards. Get the first down if they can.
So 2 years ago, you obviously played fantasy football, I assume, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kareem Hunt 2 years ago. Okay?
He was a juicy midseason pickup, I believe.
He was just one of the juiciest running backs in the league, led the league. And then what you saw last year with Nick Chubb, almost getting to 996 yards, and then this year almost leading the league. Can you imagine a team that has both of those guys on the team? What you could do if you're an offensive-minded coach? I would be sitting there just salivating.
Like I said, time of possession. Perfect.
Yeah.
You can go all day.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that if we don't have to then have the pass protection because we're dumping the ball off, we're weaving. How did were the Vikings were they screen heavy and play action heavy?
When? All season?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it depends on what was working. If they couldn't get anything started, they would crumble and never have the ball on 3rd and 3 and out constantly. But yeah, if they get Dalvin Cook cooking, then yeah, play action was just shredding them left and right, because Diggs was able to go out and pick his own route pretty much. Like, he was always like the second check down after that, the Mr. Deep, I can't remember his name, and Thielen at the beginning of the season. But Diggs was having pretty much free pickings.
Right.
And if Kirk's read that he had one-on-one on the outside, those are the countless plays this year where he just threw it up and Diggs was there for the touchdown.
Yeah.
He had like 6 of them this year, 6 of those bomb touchdowns. That's a lot.
There's also, I went through statistically all the Vikings games.
5, I think.
And I wanted to look and see like what the problems were. There were a lot of games where Kirk Cousins was not targeting wide receivers. You've got Diggs with like 3 targets.
Yeah.
And so I can understand why they were pissed off. I talked to another guy, Quincy Carriers, another Browns YouTuber, who was saying that in Stefanski's offense, it appears that in the early part of the season, it was check down heavy. It was being risk averse and not letting Kirk Cousins lose the game for them by becoming Kirk Cousins and throwing a whole bunch of interceptions and just collapsing. So he just sat there and said, you know what, we're just going to go what works. We're going to run the ball. We're going to dump it off little underneath passes. And then somehow that kind of evolved. Maybe after the apology to the wide receivers, maybe that changed. But that appeared to be what it was. It was very check down heavy, used the short passes to then open up more running. Is that an accurate assessment of what the Vikings season was?
I guess that timeline works out. To me, I saw it more as they started using Madison more as a real relief for Dalvin Cook, who was already running strong. Like, he started the season quick, and he just was pounding the numbers out. They started using Madison a bit more, which I feel like opened up more of that game, because Dalvin Cook injury prone. They didn't want to keep jamming him down the middle. You know what I mean? On those 3rd and 2s, they needed Diggs to get the 3rd and 2. They needed Rudolph to get the 3rd and 2. Cousins can't get it, so every single time I've seen him try to rush the ball for 1 yard, he's failed in the past 2 years. So, you know what I mean? So he has to have I think it's the running backs and their usage is what really opens up for the Vikings. Unfortunately, that's like required. If they can't get it going, they can't get it going. But that might have had something to do with it. I mean, it's like I said, timeline works out, but I didn't connect them myself.
So for you though, it was mostly on it was quarterback play. That was the point of frustration for you.
Yeah.
It was not believing in Kirk Cousins per se, not had anything to do with the coaches.
No, not at all. Just his Kirk Cousins' mobility. Like I can see every single play. I can imagine it in my head. If he had a little bit more time, or if he didn't give up when he could have still thrown the ball even away. Like you know what I mean? Take the chance. I think it was a quarterback thing. I don't think it was play calling. Kicking was great this year. We don't have to worry about that. Like we get rid of that problem completely, which was our big season problem last year. It lost us a lot of games, a lot of stuff.
A lot of close games. Yeah, that's actually one thing that we cleaned up a little bit this year. And then towards the end, Austin Siebert decided to he's got some problem. He's a decent kicker, decent young kicker. I think he's got a bright future in the league. I think Austin Siebert's going to be a good kicker, but missing extra points is the thing that drives me nuts. It's almost like do you remember Chuck Knobloch when he was a second baseman and for some reason mentally he couldn't throw the ball to first base, and so he just couldn't play anymore because they're like, we don't know what to do with you, like dude, like you ground the ball and you can't throw it accurately to first base. I don't know, but it was just in between the ears. And I think that's what happened. That's what happened as well. So, guys in chat, if you have any questions for Cory, asking him from a Vikings perspective, what he thinks about what Stefanski did. I mean, it seems to be pretty clear that Kirk Cousins was the bottleneck there in Minnesota. I don't see Baker Mayfield as being a talent bottleneck or not being able to make the plays. I noticed a significant going backwards, and I blame that more on Todd Monken's offense and the Monken Freddie fusion that was just it resulted in just terrible play calling throughout the entire season. The Browns fans were calling for Freddie's head pretty early this season because they didn't like the play calling. Was that ever a problem in Minnesota? Did you ever have, or did you or any of the fans, did you ever get to a point of frustration going, damn it, why was these 7 plays in a row called because they were terrible? Did that ever happen, or was it really just Kirk Cousins?
There's a few times I can think of for sure that it was a 3rd and 2. It was a 3rd and 1. And Dalvin Cook has been breaking his 5 yards per carry average. And they didn't run the ball. Like, he'd be in, or he would be on the sideline even. Like, 3rd and 1, you need to punch that in. Like, especially when it's key. There was a few times when it was key, and they didn't go to their key man. He would throw it on the outside, and maybe they made half of them, or they missed half of them. I don't really remember the outcomes, but I remember the play call as the ball's being hiked. It's wait, what? But that's the only situation I can think of is when it was a 3rd and short. And why the fuck wouldn't you? Dalvin's running all over these guys. Like, even Madison's been running on them. There's been a bunch of games where Madison only gets 9-10 touches, maybe even less. Yeah. But he puts up 8-9 yards a carry.
I mean, that's kind of how I looked at with Kareem Hunt as well. There were some games where Kareem Hunt only touched the ball. It was only given 3 carries. 3 carries for Kareem Hunt. Can you imagine 2 years ago having a game with Kareem Hunt? Now, again, Nick Chubb is carrying the load. Nick Chubb might get 14, 15 carries. But I can tell you with Kareem Hunt, if anybody's out there thinking that after his restricted free agent year, if Kareem Hunt's going to be all excited to sign back up with the Browns, if they don't start balancing out that running attack between Kareem and Nick, I could see him wanting to go somewhere else and being a feature back. We have Mick the Dog asks, I have a question for Cory. Was Kevin good before Kubiak got there? And I'd have to go and find out. I think when did Kubiak get to Minnesota? Gary Kubiak.
I'm not sure if you're looking it up.
Kubiak got to Minnesota this season. So if you think about the
he's been on a 4-year up with Minnesota, in my opinion. Stefanski. Every year they've been getting better and better and better. So if he got there this year, then yeah, he was good last year.
Here's another one. Is Stefanski a disciplinarian?
Does Stefanski beat his wife?
What can you tell us about the domestic abuse?
I'm not sure on his policies with the players personally. Like I said, I don't get too deep into that specific stuff, but He seems like a nice guy. He seems like he really likes his players, that he listens to them. If I feel like he's the kind of coach though that when he hears Diggs bitching, he'll call Cousins off and be like, "Hey man, this is what you got to do to fix this." Oh, well, Cousins is like, "Whatever you say, coach." You know what I mean? I can see that, which is perfectly fine. Like, you do what you got to do, but he's not gonna, and he'll directly just smile at Diggs and be like, "You're my athlete." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I can see that happening as well. But yeah,
Max,
I don't. He could be Mrs. Trunchbull for all I know.
Max Nikolenko asks, Corey, are you a killer for hire? We need someone to take out our owner, Jimmy Haslam. Gary Washington, Corey, in your opinion, will there be a Browns will the Browns shine under Stefanski? If there's anything negative that Stefanski does that you do not like, would that change? I'm not really sure about that question, but will the Browns shine under Kevin
I think they have
Stefanski?
potential. Oh, you're the Browns fan. I think Browns are a bunch of turd buckets sometimes. You know what I mean? But
yeah, we know.
I love their players, but I mean they have potential. They look fantastic. I thought they had potential. I was on your side at the beginning of the season before I started picking on you.
Yeah.
From an unbiased point of view, like from a completely objectionable point of view, I really liked the Browns at the beginning of the season. I like every single person they have on offense. I loved Myles Garrett a lot. I don't know if he's ever gonna.
It's a sore spot. Sore spot with me.
That was so good. And
dude, when we were 2-2 and
he got Joe
tied,
Tobert, though, he picked it up. He carried it. So good.
Todd Brenneman asked, Corey, can Stefanski get the players behind him with no head coaching experience? Will the players buy into his regime?
Do you know how the Browns a pretty young squad? Do you know?
Yeah, we're on the younger side. I think. So I actually tweeted that out, that the Browns are a young team, and
they may be less prone to it than less facilitating. I mean, I feel like any athlete of any team is, you have revolving coaches of all stations and all levels at all times. I mean, even in the military, you have like it's a pretty common rotating power source. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think people are used to it at this point. You've done college ball, you've played, you've been in. But the younger people would be more prone, just logically.
Would it be in like in the military where like
some young shithead comes in? Is that what you're thinking of?
No, I can't even say it. I was just saying, like, if you had like 6 dudes and a DI, would Stefanski be the kind of DI that would say, like,
throw his hat on the ground? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
He tell us what he wants.
The Jam says, can Stefanski evolve into a leader of men if he isn't already?
Oh, for sure. I think anyone who gets a head coach, somebody out there sees that. Like, it's got to exist. I think that's a very palpable quality in someone. You can just feel it when you're around them. You can taste it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's going to be.
You think he's got it? He's got that alpha dog in him somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's a really good coach. I think he's earned it like a classic coach story. He's earned it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, if it's a bunch of young guys, I could see like another military example. There's sometimes when you're the 45-year-old sergeant and then the 21-year-old little Korean guy comes in. He's just bossing you around and he's 5'2", and you're just like, this. You fucking kidding me? Like, it happens, but at the same time, even those guys after a while they go, everyone's like, yeah, suck it up. Like, we all do it. Like, it's not just you. There's always all of us. As we're a team, and I feel like that applies the same way over. Like, even if it's grumble, somebody there is going to have the logic of, what are you talking about? At one point, you weren't even a football player. At one point, you weren't in the NFL. So,
right.
Like, what if when you got here, the whole team was like, you never played in an NFL game. Get the fuck out. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, that's just basic logic.
Like,
so.
in baseball, that actually exists. There's not many managers ever that get head coach or get head management roles in organizations if they weren't Major League Baseball players in the past. The Miami or the Florida Marlins. Well, in order to be a manager, typically in Major League Baseball, you've had to have been a player. There was one guy who was a coach of the Marlins a couple years ago who was like an exception to the rule just because he'd been around baseball for like 40 years. Civ Life asks, do you guys think the Chiefs will win the Super Bowl this year despite Andy Reid's playoff choking habit? And do you think the Browns will go 10-6? I'll start off with that one. I think that the Chiefs have a very good chance of winning the Super Bowl this year. I think they're, at this point, likely the favorites in the AFC. I like the Chiefs more than I like the Titans. In terms of winning the Super Bowl, I don't know. Like Corey was saying, Green Bay is scary. 49ers, we saw what the 49ers can do. The 49ers are scary. If I were the Chiefs, I would rather go up against the 49ers than the Packers, just because of the inexperience with Garoppolo. I mean, that's the wild card there. But in terms of the talent of defense. And I also think that I don't know necessarily if Andy Reid, you can't really call what happened last year, them choking. They just got beat last year.
Brady. Yeah, they got Brady.
They got Brady in Foxborough too.
It's happened a billion times before. Why is that a surprise? It's Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's necessarily choking. Now maybe in the past he had, like when Alex Smith was there or something like that, maybe. But with Pat Mahomes, I think this is it. I think Pat Mahomes is coming into his own. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the Super Bowl this year. That wouldn't shock me. In terms of the Browns going 10-6. Man, if you would have asked me that last year, I would have been like, absolutely. 10-6 would actually probably be a disappointment. I think we're going to be more like
said that earlier
13-3. Now, with this going into next season, is 10-6 a reality? Yeah, probably. I think 10-6 is probably doable if Stefanski can get the players to buy in and believe in him. And if we have, I think the whole key to success. I've talked to my dad about this as well. This is one of the things that we stressed on the show yesterday. If the Browns get off to a hot start and we start off 3-0 or 2-1 and then 3-1 and then maybe 3-2, 4-2, as long as we stay keeping our head above water, competing for first place in the division, everything's fine. But if we start off slow and we start off to like an 0-3 start, I think the pitchforks and the torches and the mob is going to show up. And the boos are going to come out. The bags on the heads are going to come out.
That shit spreads too.
And here's the deal: Stefanski now. If I wonder what Vegas will probably call 8-8.
That's what I was going to say just now. I was going to say 8-8 is my realistic guess.
Right.
10-6
over under 8-8.
But 8-8 is, I feel like, is exactly where they're going to land. They're going to win one, lose one, win one, lose one. I don't know the schedule.
Right.
Maybe they'll have the Patriots schedule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll play Miami fucking 12 times.
I mean, if you look at the Browns and who they played, I mean, they played playoff teams. Yeah. Obviously, the Ravens. They played the Ravens twice. Yeah, they beat the Ravens. Tennessee took us to the woodshed like real bad. The 49ers really laid into us pretty bad as well. But I mean, we played a lot of playoff teams. We kept them in the running. We beat one who, unfortunately I thought was going to go a lot further. Didn't happen to do that. Corey, last question from Gary Washington. Turnovers have been a big problem with Baker, but all the quarterbacks under Stefanski has had single-digit interceptions. Why do you think that is? And Bradford under Stefanski led league in percentage passing. So, okay, that was the question was worded strangely.
Yeah, I get it. In Kirk Cousins' case, the reason he throws single-digit interceptions this season is because he was fumbling it. I mean, he still got the turnovers. I mean, it's just there's less chance for him to fumble it, I guess, previously. And then the coaches quarterbacks before that, who would they be? I don't quite know.
Right.
Who would have had, except for guys like Keenum, but same thing. He wasn't an aerial quarterback. He wasn't a quarterback in my opinion. Like he was like Tim Tebow. He was a Alex Smith. He was a captain,
like an athlete type guy.
Yeah. Okay, Kaepernick, even though I don't like to use that turd's name.
Max is asking, Max Nicolengo, Mike and Corey, will Myles Garrett start playing from game 1 of the season? I think he will. I haven't
heard anything. Is he allowed back?
They have not announced it yet. It's still up in the air.
I thought he was going to get the full year whammy.
No, you mean a full second year?
Yeah, well, he only got what game was that? 8? Garrett had 10 sacks already. Couldn't have been past.
Yeah, I
forget the season was 10 or 11 10. I'm pretty sure it was 10.
Let me see. Let me see what week that was. Brownies.
Yeah, Vilma got suspended for a whole fucking season because he bountied out Brett Favre.
It was week 11, so 12, 13, 14, 15. So 6 weeks he
I
lost.
thought for sure he missed this season completely. I don't want him to. I like him. I think he's awesome, but based on what he did, I just assumed.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly think that I didn't even think he was gonna get dinged for the whole season. I thought he was like, yeah, they're gonna give him a game or two, but he'll be back for the end. And my God, if they would have, because they beat Pittsburgh, they beat Miami pretty good. We would have gone to Pittsburgh and likely done better. Obviously, we would have then still beaten Cincinnati. Now we're on what a 5-game winning streak going into Arizona, which Arizona put up a lot of points against us, but I think that could have been closer. Then that would have also made the Baltimore game very compelling. And so that one play really made a big difference for the season for us. And you take a guy like Myles Garrett, you go 0-16, the guy that you draft, the best numbers from combine ever, and you take that guy then off of your team when you're still very much in the playoff run. Yeah. You're in the hunt. I mean, you control your own destiny. You go 10-6, you got a really good chance of getting there. So yeah, I don't know. I certainly hope that the league doesn't do something stupid and they let him continue.
How bad was old Mason Rudolph hurt? Not too bad.
Not at all.
Right?
He played the next game. He got a little fine, right, for creating that whole shenanigans that went down.
Played on or whatever he did too much.
And they were saying that maybe I don't know if he had the racial slur or not. I mean, who's to know?
Oh, grow up. You know what I mean? I get you. Every single one of those guys is calling you that. You know what I mean? That's the whole point. Who knows? That's the whole point.
I don't know. I don't know if it happened or not, but the bottom line is it's what Miles' story was. I don't know if the league believed it or not either. Obviously, they didn't put as much weight into it because they canned him for the rest of the season. I don't know, Max. It's a really good question, dude. I certainly hope so.
Personally, I think he's fucking incredible. He reminds me of like a better Jared Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of the questions from chat. Guys, Cory, thank you very much, man. Thanks for coming on the show, giving us a little bit of insight into the mind of a Vikings fan, seeing what you've seen. I think that my big takeaway from this is it wasn't necessarily and that's the kind of difference between what we've seen as Browns fans over the last couple of years as we've had this frustration with incompetent coaching going back. I mean, beyond Hugh Jackson, going into the Pat Shurmur, the Mike Pettin, the Chudzinski. I mean, we can go back and back and back. We just haven't had competent, smart coaching, and that I felt that any kid, any 12-year-old kid playing Madden could have the same level of strategy as some of these offensive play callers have had, and especially this past year with Freddie. So if Stefanski can come in and do what he did for Kirk Cousins and take the strengths of Baker Mayfield and bring that to light, not focus on, the negative and make adjustments, I think you'd be good. I guess my last question for you is were the Vikings able to go into halftime and make adjustments on the offensive side of the ball if they were getting beat in some way? Was that noticeable that he could make adjustments? And
they were always getting beat in some way, and yes, they always came back, and their second halves are always extremely strong. His play calling evolves, and that's why it was so beautiful. Like when you look at the Rams offense, you've seen it before. They run the same type of formations. Those formations split into 5 different plays or so, but it's confusing probably for the defense for a while. Right. And look what happens when people get the jump on it then. Todd Gurley only had 3 good years, you know what I mean? That offensive line didn't change much.
Right.
Like that team didn't change much, but their productivities went way down. Because I think that works. There is novelties in this league, and you see them clear as day. Mm-hmm. But I think the smarter coaches, the smarter teams, the smarter anybody's are seeing these patterns and the analytics and playing it and evolving their game according to weak spots as opposed to good old-fashioned coaching. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. Like, I want a 3rd and 2. I want this down. I want him to have the ball. And that guy. You know what I mean? That's old school coaching, and it's got its place. But there is definitely times where you see these analytics working, where you see these mixed match, like people playing way smarter than the other team.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if Stefanski can deliver that, I don't know if he's going to be calling plays for us. I don't know if he's going to hire an offensive coordinator. I don't know how much he's going to take on personally on this team. I think he was probably hired for his offensive mind.
Yeah, he likes offense.
So he's obviously going to be a guy who's going to most likely have a lot of say, if not be the guy holding the card like Freddie did and calling plays. My dad thinks that's going to be a big mistake if he decides to do that versus hiring an offensive coordinator, hiring a defensive coordinator, trusting them to do their job and leading that part of the team, whereas he puts his thumbprint on the strategy going into it and relying on his staff and the analytics guys and everybody else around it to help make good decisions. But if he's gonna physically call the plays and then also try to manage this roster and all the aspects of it, including the clock management and all that jazz, for a first-year head coach, we saw what happened with Freddie Kitchens. I hope we don't repeat that same problem. But I can tell you that
hire a D coordinator for sure, and he needs offensive help for sure. I don't know necessarily about a coordinator, but I feel like he's the kind of guy that when he comes to the defensive side, he's so good at offense, and he's good at evolving offense that he can tell you what's going to beat him. You know what I mean? But you still need that defensive-minded, big picture guy to go, great, I'll take that, and I'm going to apply it. I'm going to take your evolution skills and apply it to my traditional scheme. Like you have to have that framework, I think. I don't think he's the kind of guy that can go in there and just start dealing defensive cards like crazy. So I think he definitely will hire a defensive coordinator.
But you definitely felt that he was able to make and adapt on the fly and make adjustments, coming back stronger in the second half to be able to make the changes to help them. And you think that was a Stefanski specific thing.
All season long.
That I honestly I like hearing that. That's one of the things I think we were consistently outcoached and out-schemed and out-adjusted in the second half this season. And on top of that, the variety of idiotic play calling, some of the series after series with these guys, it was head-scratching as to why we would do certain things that we did. But, but then on top of it, sorry, one more question. I have another question. In terms of the Vikings offense, were they a disciplined offense in terms of, I mean, every team has like holding calls every once in a while. Every team's got some penalties that happen. I felt like the Browns this year was astronomically bad when it came to penalties in bad situations too, where you're getting you get the ball, you punt, you get it on your own 30-yard line, you call a play, you get a first down, you call another play, you get another first down, and then you get to the midfield mark, and then holding. Now you're back to your own 30-yard line where it all started. Yeah. Was that sort of thing? Did that ever happen with the Vikings?
Yeah. No, it wasn't a big factor.
It wasn't systemic.
It always happens. But no, yeah, we've got holdings and stuff. But I can't think of any times this season where, and the feeling when your team gets that 30-yard rush on third and 5, or the touchdown and it's taken back. Like I didn't remember that many touchdowns ripped off this season because of any kind of penalty or any kind of big play, but it happened. But I think it was pretty disciplined. I think it was not that many false starts. Cousins never got hit on a grounding because he never tried.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't plagued or anything.
So that's a good thing too. I think that if we can change some of that and stop beating ourselves, I felt like every game it was we were playing against three teams, the opponent, the refs, and then ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we can just limit that, maybe even just to 2 opponents a game, I think that we'd still be a lot better. Gary Wash says, Corey, I'm glad you joined. We're sure you don't want to be a Browns fan. We got a chair for you if you want it.
Is it your computer chair? Because I need a new one.
Oh, dude, I got to tell you, my computer chairs, this is like my third year with it, and I sit in this chair basically all day long for work, and it's starting to I'm pushing the limit of what the DX racers actually can do. There's a couple. I mean, it's a well-built chair. It's a well-built chair, but man, it's like, I'm 40 years old now, so I don't know what the hell's gonna happen. All right, guys, Corey, thank you very much, man. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, anytime.
We'll definitely have you back on. We're going to talk, we'll have you back on as, talk fantasy in preseason, all that kind of good stuff. Appreciate all your insights into what it's like with Kevin Stefanski and the Vikings this year. That's something that, as a lot of Browns fan that I've talked to, is like, I really just don't know a lot about him, because typically as a Browns fan, you're not necessarily watching NFC football really at all, and there's not really a point to be watching Vikings games unless they happen to be the national game. So I didn't really know a whole lot about him either. So I appreciate the insight on that.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us in chat. I appreciate it. All the regulars out there. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you happen to be watching, definitely click the subscribe button. Also, the Patreon exists. Make it happen. Be a good person. Reach down to the bottom of your heart and give $1 to the Brownie post-game community. Without you, we couldn't give away things like OBJ Funko Pops or anything like that, or solo cups with the Browns logo on it. We need the $1. Right? There it is, right there. Brownie Postgame, Patreon. Do it. Do your thing. Guys, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Cory. And as always, go Browns. All right, peace.